This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. We are here in Las Vegas and I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn. Eddie,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, mate. Thank you.
Nice little setup you've got here, but we can't dwell on that. We've got to get straight into it. Obviously, Canelo-Golovkin 3 is only days away now. Um, Eddie, from your kind of looking at it, do you think that Canelo's played chess somewhat outside of the ring by making Golovkin wait to have this trilogy back instead of doing it closer
Not
to the
really,
second bout?
because this fight was agreed quite a long time ago, just before the pandemic, and they were working on this fight for a long time. And the pandemic hit, and obviously it took away the ability to create the revenue needed to stage a fight like this. Then after that, Canelo returned to the ring, and during the pandemic, Canelo Alvarez was still fighting. Don't forget he boxed Callum Smith, coming off the back with a limited crowd in Texas. Then he boxed in Miami with a limited crowd as well. But Gennady Golovkin didn't. He took his time. He was inactive, and he came back, I think, in December in behind closed doors against Zerameta. So I don't think he's played chess at all. Honestly, like knowing Canelo Alvarez, he would never turn away from a challenge. And if people want to see the fight, if the fight generates money, he's in. And this fight, people will always want to see, and it will always generate money. I just think sometimes, timings don't work out. And obviously the timing did work out. I was able to do a deal with Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, DAZN, to get this fight together. And that happened prior to the Bivol fight. Don't forget this fight with Gennady Golovkin was really made at the beginning of this year, and obviously he had the Bivol fight and then agreed to fight Gennady in September.
A lot of people talking about Gennady's age heading into this fight, Eddie. Do you believe that will play a factor come Saturday night?
I think at 168 it's going to really help him. I think, of course, he may not be as fresh as he was at 34 or 32 or whatever. It's just life. But up at 168, I think in a Murata fight, you could really see the effects of 160 pounds. And by the way, people talk about that performance. It was a great performance after the opening rounds. He went through the gears and stopped a very strong world champion in his backyard. So I think someone made a really good point around in the round table earlier where there's like, this is not a guy that's just fighting Canelo Alvarez for the first time. This is a guy that's fought him twice. He knows how to fight him. Do you know what I mean? He's had 2 fights there. He felt he won. They were razor thin fights wherever way you go. Like he's not all of a sudden going to be like out of his comfort zone or, capitulating in the first round. Gennady Golovkin is bringing everything to this fight. And the more this fight draws closer, the more people start to believe in Gennady Golovkin. This is what happens in boxing. People have been, I know in boxing have been saying to me today, I think Gennady's going to do this, The pressures of Canelo Alvarez coming off the defeat, that air of invincibility just fading away slightly. But he's so up for it, Canelo. And so's Triple G. Can't stand each other. And I'm hoping to get some good action tomorrow.
On the undercard, Bam Rodriguez returns.
Great undercard.
Yeah, supremely talented man, Bam. How excited you see him back out? What do you want to see from him?
He's just brilliant. I mean, there's a guy you could throw into any fight at 108, 112, 115. I'll make him the favourite. For me, the fight is Bam Rodriguez against the Estrada Chocolatito winner. Now, Chocolatito and Bam are both with Tekken, so they don't really want to make that fight. But I see Bam actually moving back down to flyweight probably. Maybe looking at the WBO title. It's very unusual to make a multi-weight champion down the weights. Normally you win a world title and then you move up to, win another world title and then another world title at a different weight class. So, I think this kid is unbelievable. And people have told me for a long time. And sometimes those kind of fighters never really get the opportunity to show how good they are. And I'm pleased he's getting it, and especially on this platform.
Marc Castro and Diego Pacheco, 2 again exciting talents. What are you hoping to see from them?
I think, Diego's at a stage beyond Marc at the moment. Marc's, going to be making his way into 10 rounds. Very exciting. Boxed on a lot of Canelo Alvarez cards, where he's like 15-time amateur champion, national champion. Pacheco's building a great fan base. Huge super middleweight as well. It's just such a good card. Even below that, there's a fight, Aaron Aponte against Molina. Like, watch that fight. It's going to be an absolute war. Rosado against Akhmedov. Unbelievable fight. Kieran Conway against Amo Williams. Brilliant fight. Another massive opportunity for Kieran. It's just a brilliant card from top to bottom.
How quickly do you want to see Pacheco progressing with his career beyond
He's
that?
still very young, but you know he's getting to a stage now where he's in 10-round fights. You're going to see him in the world top 15 soon. I think he's still got a couple of years before he's ready to progress to world championships, but I believe he's a special talent.
You mentioned earlier on finally having the investment to be able to put this fight back on us in terms of waiting for it after the second fight. First fight did about 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, second 1.1. What would you predict for this one?
I want to see it go through 1 million buys. You know, I mean, Bivol did over 500,000 buys, and you know, I think anywhere between 800 and 1.1 million is the range for this fight. As it draws closer, like I said, people start talking more. The defeat last time out for Canelo Alvarez, and of course, what happens at the press conference. You know, these last few days are always so important in getting people excited and motivated about the fight, and a lot of that is down to the fighters because the beef is real between these two guys, and if that's expressed at the right way at the press conference tomorrow, and the weigh-in will be immense and huge and thousands of people just become invested in the fight, and they should be, because it's, you know, this is a modern day great rivalry between two iconic fighters.
On the pay-per-view front, Eddie, from a UK perspective, it's obviously been a hot talking point. You've had this, you'll have this one before, you got Eubank Jr., Ben coming up. I know it's on DAZN, wasn't your show, but KSI was pay-per-view as well. At a time when kind of families are struggling financially with energy prices rising. What are your thoughts on kind of the criticisms you guys have started to take and the flack you've taken because of past comments saying that pay-per-view wouldn't come onto the DAZN platform?
Yeah, I think that you need, as I said before, regarding pay-per-view, if you want to bring certain fights to the platform, the subscription model will not enable you to do so. I don't speak on behalf of DAZN, I'm just telling you from a common sense perspective. Like the money that's being paid for Canelo Alvarez against Gennady-Golovkin, like you couldn't bring that to the platform without the pay-per-view model. Ben Eubank, the guarantees that are going into that fight, it's one of the biggest fights I've ever done. So you either have to have the choice. You don't bring the mega fights to the platform. Fury Joshua is another one, you know, or you do, and you run a successful subscription model with great high quality content and value for money with the pay-per-views, or you just leave it alone. And the decision was they want to bring the mega fights to the platform. And you know, Ben Eubank, like I said, is a good example of probably one of the biggest pay-per-views we'll ever do. And it was the only way to make that fight. So I think that you know, we're not out there as a business with DAZN saying, when's the next pay-per-view? Like, we want another pay-per-view. That, like the past, that was the plan, to sort of, you know, look to do pay-per-views consistently. This is, if there exist, we have the ability and the technology to be in the running for those fights, and that's the model.
Just two to squeeze. Deji Mayweather talks.
I cannot believe Floyd Mayweather is is a genius. How he is getting people to pay to stage him against people that have absolutely no chance against him. I'll take my hat off to him.
And final one, anything further gone along the lines with Anthony Joshua?
No,
and Tyson Fury?
just waiting for the contract. So I'm sure that'll be over in due course.
Right, perfect, Eddie. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.